Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're looking for missing Mary Franklin from Vicksburg, Mississippi. She was 71 years old. There's no photo. July 26, 1986. And it says she could have been anywhere from 5 foot tall to 5 foot 6, so they don't even know her height. She was 160 pounds. She went missing from her home, and there was no evidence of a break-in. Her glasses and wig were found at her house, and family members stated she never left without them. Warren County Sheriff's Department searched. They combed the 16 acres on which the house sat. They interviewed. They even had a confession from a man who then Sheriff Paul Barrett said could not be prosecuted because nobody had been produced and the suspect's mental capacity was questionable. So if his mental capacity was questionable, then his confession, may not have even been true, right? I would find that questionable as well. Black hair, brown eyes, and nobody knows what happened to her. 71 years old. I'm going to see if I see anything. I didn't check to see if I saw like Charlie Project or Doe Network or anything like that. Real quick to see if there's anything else online. Right here. Is that about her? The rumor around town is that a teenager came forward saying that he and 3 other people had murdered Mary and buried her body at the county landfill. The landfill was searched, but no one ever found Mary's remains, and no one was ever charged with her murder. She remains missing to this day. She believes that on Saturday night, July 26th, someone knocked on the door. Franklin would never let anyone that she didn't know into her home. So, let's see what this says. Ooh, look at all the ads. There once stood a house on China Grove in Vicksburg, Mississippi that was captivated. I first learned the house when I was a teenager, out riding backwards with my friends. Late one Saturday night, as we drove past the little house that was slightly off the paved road. My friend asked if I had ever heard of Mary Franklin. I had not, and he proceeded to tell me that the house was once a home to Mary Franklin, an elderly woman that went missing from the home in 1986. A rumor around town. That's a rumor. Okay, so as a teenager, my rebellious friends and I would explore the remains of the house on China Grove Road. It was just a shell of a house at the time, with the floors falling in and the ceiling leaning into the rooms throughout the house. I always got an eerie feeling when I explored there. Over the years, people had come along and stolen or destroyed anything left behind. When Mary disappeared, old papers and clothing were left strewn all over the derelict home. From the very first time I visited the home, I felt drawn there. Over the years, I could not help but admire the dark abandoned house from the street as I would drive by. Then I began to do some research on the home, and I was absolutely floored with what I found. The property where Mary Franklin's house once stood is now just an overgrown, empty lot, with Mother Nature slowly taking back what once stood there. The only thing left to know: there was once a home. There is a small driveway that leads to a small woodsy area, but the history and the sadness of what happened there will live on forever. In 1991, a fugitive of murder from Michigan named Dennis Depew was chased into Vicksburg, Mississippi by state troopers in Vicksburg. Then Sheriff Paul Barrett and his team of officers picked up the chase of Depew. They chased him throughout the town, down Gibson Road and onto China Grove Road. The chase ended in a shootout with the Vicksburg police officers, where Depew took his own life. While this incident didn't happen at Mary Franklin's home, it was right in front of where the home stood, which fascinated me. In 1994, the absolute worst imaginable happened at the Mary Franklin home. 3 college students from the Hines Community College in Utica, Mississippi, Dorian Martin, Michael Garrison, and Clifton Brown, were found murdered inside the Franklin home. They were found 11 days after they were murdered, with their hands taped behind their backs and gunshot wounds to their head. It is said that the students had a large sum of money in their possession, and they were kidnapped, robbed, and murdered. Sean Derek Horton from Vicksburg and Dennis Berry from Glendale, Arizona were arrested and charged with kidnapping and armed robbery. Berry was convicted of 2 counts of armed robbery and was sentenced to 18 years in prison, while Horton was convicted of armed robbery, aggravated assault, murder, and sentenced to life in prison. Of course, when I learned of these stories, my interest in Mary Franklin's house only grew. But in 2011, the most mysterious thing happened to the home. Out of nowhere and with no one on the property at the time, the shell of the house that still stood on the overgrown property burned to the ground. To this day, no one knows how the fire started. It just burned to the ground, leaving behind nothing but a concrete slab and a little driveway that nature would one day take back as its own. Wow. And you could pause that and read on if you want to. The author is Allison Smith. And then we have this. I don't know if that's still the same person. King has a theory. It goes like this. She believes the man who confessed told the truth. Wow. She believes that on Saturday night, July 26th, someone knocked on the door. Franklin would never let anyone she didn't know into her house at night. A voice accompanied the knock. It was the sound of a man who had been there many times, someone she trusted. He had brought groceries for her, cut the grass, visited for hours. Seeing his pickup in front of her house wouldn't have been out of the ordinary. To Franklin, his voice was one of safety. Franklin got up, made her way to the door. She opened it and welcomed the man inside. As she turned her back, 3 other people, 2 men and a woman, followed the first man inside. They pounced. They forced her to the floor and knocked off her wig. They covered her head and demanded to know where she kept her money. Franklin said she didn't have any. The 4 became enraged at the answer. Somewhere inside the house that didn't even have a television was money. It didn't matter what she said. They had heard she had money. It was in the house somewhere. They searched through the house. They went through the icebox, the trunk, under the mattress, nothing. At some point, rage overcame the 4. They beat Franklin upon her insistence that there wasn't any money in the house, and she died. In his confession, the man said after searching the house, the group wrapped Franklin in a sheet and carried her out to her pickup. The 4 took Franklin to a dump on Hellsbury Road and used a backhoe to bury her. But before they rolled her into the hole, Franklin moaned. One of the men hit her in the head. They put her in the hole and began filling the hole, covering it with trash. In 1991, Dennis Henry Depew of Michigan profiled that night on TV's America's Most. Oh, yeah, you can pause this and read it. This is similar to what the other one said after that. Right here it says, for now the case remains open. Warren County Jay McKenzie said they still ponder information, review clues, old and new. King, who voluntarily took a polygraph to defuse rumors and clear her own name, said several people have inquired about purchasing the property, but her half-brother in Milwaukee, who owns the property, said he has no plans to sell it. He continues to pay taxes on the land, content to hold it there. Her husband bought that land, and she was going to stay there until she died, King said. It's her property. She didn't have a will. It's still there. One of the men King believes was involved in the murder of her grandmother has died, and another is in jail for a separate matter. But she still runs into the 3rd man and the woman. She said whenever they see her, they turn and go in the opposite direction, never saying a word to her. Even though no one has been charged, King said that she does not harbor any ill feelings toward the sheriff's office and still has hope for an end to the saga. I really truly believe they did everything that they could, she said. That is sad. So that is the missing woman. And I looked for Jane Doe's, and I found this one that is all the way in Dorado, Arkansas, which is only 2.5 hours away. And she was estimated age 50 to 90. Estimated PMI is 5 years, but it says anywhere from 0 to 1999. Found November 15th in 1894, which is 8 years later. And estimated to be 5'1". They don't know how tall she was. And a hunter found the remains in the woods off of the above address. There is a missing persons report along with these remains of a Catherine Vasay, 74-year-old black female who's 5'5", that went missing about 2 miles from where they found these remains. Catherine Vasay has been missing since June 1st, 1979, but I couldn't find her in NamUs. I couldn't find her anywhere as listed as still a missing person. So if she is a missing person for some reason, I don't know if they've lost her file or her case or why she hasn't been entered into NamUs or if there's even a file anywhere for her. But that's the Jane Doe that I found. It doesn't mean it's her. It just means that there's one of the Jane Does I found. Her remains may not have been found, or they could have been found, and maybe it's an unsure or uncertain whether it's male or female kind of thing. Because sometimes they find remains and they don't know if it's male or female. But anyway, if you have any information about what might have happened to her, maybe somebody's been drinking and talking over the years, you're not sure if it's accurate, you're not sure if it's true, you don't know if it's relevant, please give it to authorities. You never know what's going to help them solve that case. It could be one email or one phone call with just a little bit of information that goes with some other information that they have that helps them solve the case. And then the relatives could have her remains or something and scatter her ashes. And if you know who this Jane Doe might be, if you have a loved one or family member or friend that went missing, make sure they're in NamUs. Make sure the investigators entered them in NamUs. Make sure they have a missing persons case files. And if you can't get them in NamUs, try to get them on the Doe Network and the Charlie Project. And don't forget to pray for their family and their loved ones. Feel free to leave comments and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.